Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to ULT San Diego for the Aquarian series. The title for tonight's presentation is The Verbum, and this will be given to us by Mr. Cliff Tillotson. Before we get started, I would like to read something to you from The Jewel and the Lotus. This is Turning Inward, Jayeshta. The Bodhisattva Manjushri arose from his seat, bowed low at the feet of the Buddha, and chanted this gatha with reverence. With reverence, I will tell the Tathagata what Avalokiteshvara said. When one dwells in inner solitude, rolling drums are heard from all the 10 directions. Thus, hearing is complete and perfect. Eyes cannot pierce a screen, nor can mouth or nose. The body feels only when it is touched. The mind's thinking is discorded, discontinuous. Voice, whether from far or near, can always be heard. The 5 other organs are imperfect. Hearing alone is pervasive. Presence and absence of sound and voice are registered by the ear as being and not being. Yet absence of sound is only nothing heard, not hearing devoid of its nature. Absence of sound is not the cessation of hearing, nor presence of sound. Its beginning, hearing beyond creation, beyond annihilation, is, in truth, everlasting. In this Saha world, teaching is by voice. Beings who do not understand the nature of hearing follow sound and continue to be born again. You may hear of secret methods from Buddha's countless as dust, but without vanquishing desires, hearing much only causes error. To hear the self, why not turn within? The power to hear the Buddha's words. Hearing does not create itself, but owes its origin to sound. When freed from external sounds by turning within, what can hearing be called? If one organ of sense is returned to its source, all 6 are thereby liberated. Seeing and hearing are like optical illusions. The 3 worlds are like flowers in the sky. When hearing is withdrawn, the illusion vanishes. With sense objects gone, Bodhi is perfect and pellucid. In pristine purity, its illumination suffuses all, and its shining stillness enfolds the great void. We give to you now our very own Mr. Cliff Tillotson.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to share a few ideas on this very deep subject. That was a wonderful reading, by the way. I think we could stop there. It's super appropriate to this very deep subject of the verbum. And my wife can attest to this. I sat down and I opened up this book, the Gupta Vidya, the 3rd volume, which is the Pilgrimage of Humanity, which has the article, the Verbum, in it. That's an essay by Dr. Iyer, Raghavan Iyer. And as soon as I opened the book, an earthquake happened in Hawaii, a 6.0 earthquake, which is quite rare. And it was the longest earthquake that I've ever been involved with. It just went on and on and on. And so I had that time while the earthquake was happening to ask myself, what is nature trying to tell me something here? And I think the message I got was that this world that we live in isn't quite as solid and stable as we might think But if we were to be able to kind of pull back the veil, we would see that we live in a world of vibration that is behind everything that's manifest. I mean, here in Hawaii, we also have the volcanoes to remind us that our Earth is, this crust of our Earth surrounds basically a ball of fire. And nor do we really even know much about ourselves. I remember hearing a talk by the Dalai Lama where he said that the nature of the mind is pure light. And that's always stayed with me, that, whoa, I really don't know that much about myself, but that's the nature of the mind. I think maybe we'll just start by reading again the quote for the week on the verbum from Hermes, which I think really um, basically puts everything in a nutshell, kind of about what the idea of the verbum. And when one deeply meditates upon the compassion of visible and invisible nature, one can hear the divine voice of Vok, the verbum resonating everywhere and at all times. Hermes. Which also makes me want to read this great hymn to Vok, which is at the beginning of the almanac, this wonderful hymn, because I think this hymn is kind of like a bridge between the very deep ideas about the verbum or Vok, as well as how human beings can embody it and practice it in their lives. So let me just read this hymn real quickly, or not quickly, but slowly, actually. When, O Lord of the Word, the wise established name-giving, the first principle of language, their inmost excellence, pristine and pure, hidden deep within, was brought to light through love. When the wise created language with the mind, as winnowing ground barley with a sieve, friends acknowledged the essence of friendship. Upon their speech was impressed the mark of grace. With devotion they walked the path of the word, which they saw abiding within the seers. They drew it out, ordering it all ways, the word which the seven singers exalt. Many a man who sees does not see the word, and many a man who hears does not hear it. Yet for another, Bach reveals herself like a radiant bride yielding to her Lord. Another man is apt to be uncaring, unmoved ever to act with daring, all tangled in vain imaginings. The word he hears bears no flower or fruit. He who forsakes a companion in knowledge lacks every avenue for sharing the word. In truth, what he hears to no avail. He cannot perceive the path of right action. To all companions are eyes and ears bestowed, yet each man differs in the quickness of his mind. Some are like deep, refreshing lakes, others, alas, like shallow pools. When men of the word companions worship, refining in their hearts flashes of insight, some attain awareness of knowledge, others wander, mouthing empty words. Those who move neither forward nor backward are not men of the word, nor refiners of essence. Poor craftsmen mishandling the word, spinning frail threads of self-regard. All companions rejoice in their victorious friend, finding fulfillment at the journey's end. Nourishing them, he eases their pain, for he is ever ready to venture forth. While one man adds to the store of sacred verse, another sings hymns to banish confusion. The man of the word gives knowledge of what is, and another gives measure to worship. That's from Brihaspati. But it's a beautiful poem or hymn about the verbum or Vok. The question I'd like to kind of focus on, I guess, in regards to the verbum, because it's a very deep and metaphysical idea, is how can we take this deep metaphysical idea and bring it into our lives, into our daily lives, and make it relevant to how we live our lives. So first, maybe we might ask ourselves, what would be this metaphysical idea of the verbum uh, before we talk about how we can apply it? And of course, one first wants to go to the three fundamentals to try and understand that this whole idea of the verbum. But something that this student has been thinking about a lot recently is that it's hard for us to get out of the trap of thinking in a linear manner, in a manner of succession, rather than in a manner of simultaneity. We think often that there is non-existence and then there is existence, but maybe they could be simultaneous. There's the ancient Greek teaching about chaos. Professor Iyer, Dr. Iyer, strongly corrected people in was not what historians have come to think of what chaos is. For the Neoplatonists, the Platonists, the Pythagoreans, chaos was this field, or not, maybe that's not even the right but it was this electric vibrating energy prior to any manifestation. It wasn't disarray or disorganization or confusion like we use the word today. Likewise, this modern theoretical physics have given us this idea of the Big Bang theory, but they have not explained it very well, or they haven't shared it very well with us lay people, because for us lay people, we think that means that there was nothing before the Big Bang. But theoretical physicists say no. Actually, there is what they call cosmic inflation. There is theoretically, they believe that there is, in this vacuum before the space-time continuum, there is an expanding, vibrating energy, electrical energy, that then somehow through the Big Bang happens. And then we also have the idea in Buddhism of shunyata, which is the void. But if you read carefully into Buddhism, the void is not necessarily empty. There's a fullness to that void. So what is this energy field, or whatever? I think field is the wrong word, because field suggests boundaries. What is this energy, and how can we get more an intuitive sense of it? Because we think that this realm, now again, that's a bad word, is a realm of plenty, is a realm of abundance. It's a realm of fullness. And we think that rather than this energy being there and then there's manifestation, that actually this field of energy surrounds us all the time. We are like fish that are surrounded by water. We are surrounded by this vibrating energy that sustains the universe. And we're just simply not aware of it. In Hawaii, there's energy is referred to as mana, and I think in Zen, it's referred to as chi. But the big question we might ask of modern scientists, the big question, along with the Big Bang, is, okay, is the universe a random concurrence of atoms, or is the universe have order and harmony to it? And it's pretty obvious just with our senses to see that there's order and harmony everywhere in nature. So the question then is there intelligent design in the universe? And it seems pretty obvious that there is. It's not a random concurrence of atoms. So if there is intelligent design, does that mean that there are intelligences? And this is where science will stop, because they're going, oh no, you're getting into a kind of a woo-woo area now. We can't go there. I think it's actually fear. We can go there. We can intuit with our deeper noetic minds that there are hosts and hosts of beings that are behind the veil of the universe, that are in a sense, allowing or establishing the laws of the universe and enacting those laws of the universe. And it's a whole chain of being. And we are actually part of that chain. But there are great, great beings that we, of course, cannot see that are, in a sense, behind the laws and the structure of the universe. And these laws, we think, are established through sound, through the verbum. So how, I guess the question then becomes, how can we be more receptive to, be able to bring this soundless sound, the voice of the silence, into our own lives? And in ancient India, when one became a brahmacharya and went to a guru, one became first a shravaka, a listener. And that was what was wonderful about the quote that was read at the beginning about hearing at a different level. How can we begin to develop this deep ability of hearing, which Gandhi referred to as listening to the still small voice within? Socrates as well spoke of this. There's one great teacher in India, Ramana Maharshi, who attuned himself to this deep voice of nature or the voice of the one by remaining silent for never spoke a word for 10 years. Pythagoras instructed all of his students that came to his academy that they had to remain silent for 7 years before they were allowed to speak in his school, in his academy. So this is the challenge, really, is to try and open ourselves up to this still small voice. And there's a quote in the almanac this week from one of the great, I would say, transcendentalists, Margaret Fuller, which I think is really relevant to read. It's a short quote. Let me find it if I can. Oh, I lost my tag, but anyways. Yeah, from Margaret Fuller. It is astonishing what force, purity, and wisdom it requires for a human being to keep clear of falsehoods. And the reason this quote struck me is that we are in our daily lives so often drawn into contexts which reinforce kind of and support the lower self. And how do we navigate that realm where we're always being pulled into that? And she says it requires force, purity, and wisdom to not get sucked into this realm that's kind of like supported by all this bracing and scaffolding, and stay more in that realm where one can be intuit or listening to this deeper sound of nature. And I thought also the very first sentence in the article, the Verbum, gives us a clue on how to do this. And the first sentence is, those who have had the resplendent karma of receiving the sacred teaching about the Verbum should move rapidly from the state of irresponsibility into the realm of responsibility in the gestation of sound associated with thought. So the realm of speech is the most potent realm of action for fulfilling our dharma, for performing our duties in life, as well as for creating karma. We changed the Kurukshetra, the field of karma, into the Dharmakshetra, the field of dharma, when we realized that we aren't created beings, but we are actually creative beings, that we are givers rather than takers. And we changed that polarity in our nature from one that's more centripetal to one that's more centrifugal, allowing the light of the logos, the, the voice of the silence to touch our higher intuitions and find channels by which we can allow it to come into our daily lives. I asked myself the question, what would be some practical ways that we could maybe attune ourselves more to the verbum? And I came up with a shopping list of possibly 17 practices that one could put into one's daily life to help in this attunement or this fine tuning of one's gestures to the verbum, which is, as it says here in the opening quote of the week, is the voice, is the divine voice of nature, which is the divine voice of Bach. So here's some suggestions. Try and surround all of our words with silence. Silence before and silence after, and even while we're speaking, have that posture of a spectator rather than just as a participant. Be detached from what one says. Another one that's obvious is never react, only respond, which simple advice of counting to 10 when one feels one's emotions getting a little bit, the temperature of one's emotions going up. There's one that I found very striking in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna lists off the attributes of the godlike nature. In that chapter, the discrimination of the godlike and the demonic natures. In that list, he includes in that list not to speak of the faults of others, which Jesus said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." It's a very practical practice, and the more one reviews one's day, one realizes that one has often slipped into it through gossip or whatever. Not speak of the faults of others. It's actually a godlike virtue. The next one I thought of was recognize the traps in conversation and don't engage it, don't fall into these traps of vanity or self regard, but at the same time, not, I don't know, again, be judgmental, but just be quiet when those subjects come up. And after a while, people realize, oh, this guy doesn't want to engage. This human being is not going there. And it gets easier over time through kind of sometimes an awkward silence. Next one is when listens to another, very often because we're so fragmented with social media and so forth, that we're not really listening to others. Try to practice deep listening with the heart. Try to connect one's ears to one's heart. Next one is to review the conversations of the day when one does one's Pythagorean review, and ask how those conversations went and how they could have been more uplifting. The next one is recognize speech as an art. Thoreau talked about this, that you can be an artist and paint a picture or carve a statue, but the greatest of arts is the atmosphere of one's daily life, and that comes a lot through speech, because it is the most potent field for performing one's dharma. Practice timing. In other words, sometimes one wants to say something, but one knows the timing isn't quite right. So you let the fruit ripen and wait for the timing to be the right timing. Timing is critical. As I think John Milton says, those serve who only stand and wait. Next one is to try and speak just plainly, like Abraham Lincoln, so that even a child can understand what one's saying. And also thrill at the opportunities to speak with children, to get down on one's knees if it's a 2-year-old and have a conversation and recognize them as a soul capable of deep conversation, but with clear language. It's a very therapeutic thing to do. Next one is to believe in the power of telepathy, in the power of silent speech. All the old cultures spoke more in silence than they did with speech. Telepathy is possible. Let all speech originate in one's solar plexus, not in one's head. Speak always from the heart. Carry a vibratory mantra through the day, like Gandhi did, always repeating the name of Ram. Find something that really appeals to oneself as a higher keynote and try and carry it throughout the day. Always give precedence to others. Recognize that real learning is a drawing out rather than a putting in. So in one's speech, one is giving precedence to others, listening to others, and drawing them out. Become really good at asking questions. Have it really try and make questions, because that's, as Krishna says, one of the marks of someone who's walking the path is seek this wisdom by asking questions. See every encounter as a creative opportunity to recognize the dignity and honor the divinity of another, no matter who, someone at a checkout station or a waitress or gas station attendant. See their dignity and try and recognize their divinity as well. Practice the motto, less is more. In other words, be succinct. Don't go on, but be as careful and succinct with one's language as one can. And the last one, which I think is my favorite of these, is 2 words. Both words are only 2 letters, and it is live as if. As if. Live as if we are already in the golden age. Imagine what human beings that are in the golden age, how they interacted, and try and live that we're not living in Kali Yuga. We're bringing the golden age into Kali Yuga. And this would also be a way of bringing the verbum into our daily lives. So let me just conclude with a few sentences from the Jewel in the Lotus forward that Jonathan pointed me to, that is written by Raghavan Iyer. The surest sign of the logos in the cosmos, the God in man, is the enormous latent capacity through the power of sound to create something that is truly magical. Each human being can readily release vibrations that either bless or curse, help or hinder all other beings. This is determined by the quality of motivation, the intensity of inmost feeling, and by the degree of individual and universal self-consciousness nurtured and strengthened through deep meditation and self-study. There is indeed a self-validating potency in inspired utterances. Whenever one finds a seminal idea or a mantramic phrase which truly sparks off some light in the head and heart, and one feels impelled to use it, then by reflecting upon it and by remaining in that current, one can transform the magnetic sphere of selfhood. To realize the vivifying and purifying power of the verbum on a strong and sustained basis is the implicit purpose of all sacred invocations, so that as many as possible may enter the current of compassionate ideation, which is the guiding force of cosmic and human evolution. Anyone who can existentially restore the alchemical and healing properties of sound, speech, and silence, even to some limited extent in the humblest of contexts, in close relationships or in the company of little children, in everyday encounters, does a great deal for the invisible tribe of teachers and friends of humanity, the Guru Parampara. Anyways, there's a few thoughts on the subject of the verbum and perhaps how we can try to practice it in our daily life.
Well, thank you very much for that, Cliff. It was a very magical presentation. I really appreciated the just raw, pure searching that was going on in real time. But what about this idea of incarnation? That's almost the more interesting thing. So I was wondering if you or anybody had any idea of what this might mean to incarnate a teaching, and if it has anything to do with the power of sound.
Jonathan, I think it's a great question. I think it has everything to do with the power of sound and the verbum, but I'm going to stay quiet.
Okay, well, thanks for the affirmation that it wasn't a stupid question. Judy?
Yes, sorry, my video won't work at the moment, so we'll
Okay.
have to deal with Verbum.
Okay, just verbum only.
I really think the idea of inculcate is better than incarnate. We're physically incarnated, okay, on this plane. You know, we have rupa, we have form, but to incarnate the teaching, I think, would be to make it part of your life, to live it. You know, as Wadia talks about living the life. So it would be
Thanks.
more than just an intellectual idea, the idea of brotherhood, for example, or the unity of religions, or any of the aims of the Theosophical Society. We would really have to live it to know what it means and to be really fully aware of its import. That's what I think, anyway.
Thank you, Judy. Laura? Sounds like we're going to get the verbum from you too.
What was shared was very helpful, and it brought to mind the idea of guarding the lips. You know, that's one of the thoughts that came to mind in listening to tonight's talk. And we don't often think of our thoughts as a creative force, or the words that we speak as creative energy. But the verbum, you know, is kind of reminds us that the power of sound, not only in our humanity, but we can think in terms of the animals as well, and the sounds that they create as also part of this creative process.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Nathan?
Okay, more verbum.
All right.
Wow, that was really amazing. I only caught the tail end of it, but I'm going to listen again. And what a powerful tone of your voice, Cliff. Thank you for sharing that. So I don't know if this is a theosophical teaching, but I think that it could be related. When we think about the verbum, we're talking about the logos, right? The meaning of things, the word, the sound. You know, this is also described in the gospel as, you know, the light that comes from the darkness, that in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. That is us. That's who we are. That's what we're made out of. It's by that light, if we think about our solar ancestors that gave us the light of self-consciousness, that's how we make sense of anything. It's how we see anything rightly. You know, our lunar ancestors gave us our bodies and our physical forms, and then we were lit up. We were lit up by the light of Manas. And so this is where I think, you know, when we talk about incarnation, something that is it's kind of, I've been curious about lately. If there's one life, and we are all the one life, and the animals and the plants and the trees and the whole planet is humanity in some various form, latent or, you know, progressing, like, I don't know about reincarnation. You know, we've got the higher triad that we know persists, and then we know that the physical form and the lower quaternary, you know, kind of like, you know, it gets composted back into nature, and we create new forms. But this idea that we are reincarnated, I don't think the carnation ever stops. It's really like, if we come from the dhyanis, the light that comes out of the inside of everything, the darkness inside of everything. You know, like our ancestors, not just, you know, the far distant ancestors that we think of as the Buddhas, the dhyanis, the you know, all of the interesting ways that HPP has to speak of our ancestors in the Secret Doctrine, but even just like our moms and our dads and our near ancestors, and then from them, we carry on this electrical pulse. It's a heartbeat. It is passed on from one generation to the next to the next. We are the same person. We're the same person. Incarnation is just this constantly changing kaleidoscopic, you know, experience of the one self. turning into it's not new selves. We're just realizing new aspects and dimensions of ourselves. So that's what I think about incarnation these days.
Thank you, Nathan. That was a good riff for sure.
Thank you.
That was really something there. But I had something, it reminded me of a meeting a few weeks back where, because I've been trying to, no, I'm not even going to mention it. Well, anyway, okay, I will. AI. And I've been thinking there's got to be a better theosophical thing about twist on AI than the normal deal. So I've been thinking Akashic intelligence, is that the real AI? And then, but the speaker at that time, he said ancestral intelligence. And that's a lot like what you were talking about, Nathan. And that's at least something that somebody can even halfway understand, although it's so primordial and so ancient. Oh yeah, ancient intelligence, by the way. But and speaking of that and Cliff's voice and so forth, the beauty of what you did, Cliff, is I think it has to do with awakening soul memories. So that really deep contemplation that you helped us with is very much appreciated. Desiree.
Let me see if I can hear.
Are you back from? Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been sick for a while. I'm getting my voice back.
You're finding your voice.
I'm finding my voice, my verbum. Thank you, Cliff. That was beautiful, and I really appreciate the time that you took to come up with 17 practical guidelines here for helping us get more in tune with that inner voice. I really found it interesting when we're talking about the scientific hypothesis of cosmic inflation, I think you talked about, and about it being an expanding energy, and that might explain their idea about the Big Bang Theory. And I've always been curious about the Big Bang Theory because in order for there to be something of a Big Bang, there had to have been something that came before that was a memory. There had to have been a memory of something. Even atoms have memory. But I was wondering, with this idea of expansion, in what way can we relate that? Could it be suggestive of this, the Brahmanic outbreathing and inbreathing? All your
I'll try and say a few things, I guess, Jonathan, on that.
Please. Thank you.
It's all so mysterious, right? It's just super mysterious. But if time didn't begin until the Big Bang, a lot of the theoretical physicists are saying, well, that implies that there was something, a period before the Big Bang. So it's this very mysterious idea that everything comes, there's nothing, and then there's the Big Bang, and then there's a universe. So I'm glad that when I think I used AI, Jonathan, I have to admit, I asked what is before the Big Bang, and AI came up with, this is what theoretical physicists are thinking now, that there is this called cosmic inflation. There is this expanding, vibrating electric energy prior to space-time continuum. And there's a big debate in theoretical physics is, well, if you're talking about that, if it's actually expanding, then there's time. There's time there. So they're debating that. They're also debating pretty much the theosophical teaching of Pralaya and Manvantara, that universes come and go, and that our universe might be like a sphere within this ever expanding energy, and which I don't know how to put it, I don't know how to describe it without limiting it. But it seems that theoretical physics is moving closer and closer to ideas that are expressed so amazingly well by H.P. Blavatsky in the first fundamental, which is exciting.
I don't think they have a choice. Thank you.
Maurice and/or Jenny?
Yes, this is Maurice. But if anyone has another comment on AI, please make it. I have another subject. So anyone else on AI, go for it.
Well, I had a question, just, it wasn't on AI, it was this idea of this kind of this more ancient understanding of the word chaos, that it's like this creativity realm or space or whatever it is. And also in one of your 17 points, you talked about surrounding our words with silence. And I was wondering, what about that? Is it that chaos? I mean, is the silence that's vivid and palpable in a way, and something that can actually surround our words, so that the words come out of the silence and then they, I guess, subside back into it, and the word itself is impregnated with that creativity somehow. I was wondering if anyone had anything more to say about that, or Cliff, if you thought about that. Trying to relate the cosmic thing to the speech thing.
I just remember Raghav and I are pointing out that our notion of what the Greeks thought chaos was is very mistaken.
Yeah.
That it's actually there's they never saw it as just complete disharmony or all that, that somehow the word came down to it. Hesiod speaks about chaos and says that one of the first progeny of chaos is eros, which is an interesting idea, that desire or love, compassion, which is the law of laws, somehow this organizing, harmonizing principle of the universe comes out of this. I can't think of the right word, but I keep coming up with this field, but I think field is wrong because that suggests dimensions. But somehow out of this chaos, there is eros, or divine love, maybe is what.
And then how would that fit into kind of noetic speech, if at all?
I guess the thing I was thinking about in terms of silence surrounding speech is I was thinking of Krishna's teaching that of inaction in action.
Mm-hmm.
That can we actually practice inaction in action? Can we actually stay quiet and be primarily a listener? We've all been at dinner tables where someone holds the table. It's very, very, very frustrating. Yeah. But sometimes you just have to endure it. But let it not be us.
Yeah. That's, at least we can contribute that. Okay, so why don't we shift gears and go over to Maurice? What you got?
Well, actually, you were starting to hit on it with eros, because I just wanted to share one of the passages in the week coming up in the almanac where it said, "There is a natural melody, an obscure font in every human heart." And having come from a great Indian music concert yesterday, it's just amazing how music, for example, relative to sound and the verbum, well, it can have a kaleidoscopic realms of melody. There's something that melody drives you inward to the one. There's something centering, harmonizing about it. And it's really connected to, as it says in Light on the Path, every human heart. So I was just wondering if anyone had any comments about the verbum and tonality relative to a natural melody connected with the heart.
That's beautiful. It does. Interesting that Oh, is my voice going to echo now? Okay. Anyway, our theme for the year is the flute of Krishna. So it obviously it's very much appropriate that this topic of the verbum would come up. And the melodious flute of Krishna, and there's Shobha has blessed us with these beautiful stories about the flute of Krishna and how Krishna was actually mischievous as a boy, but when he started playing that flute, then that's what the melodies of the human heart started to become released, and it would awaken the melodies within so many human hearts. So that's a beautiful way of, because there's this idea of kind of greeting another person and saluting them with the idea of namaste. The higher spirit in me salutes the higher spirit in you. But this idea of this continuous melody that's going on in every human heart is really lovely. Robert, do you have anything on that?
Well, I'd just like to add that
Yeah, please.
certainly when you speak to jazz musicians, as I have actually had the privilege of doing, they're playing music 24 hours a day. You know, you go find them after a concert, they're still playing music.
Really?
Yeah, the intense eros, the intense love of that melody. And of course, jazz musicians like Wynton Marsalis will tell you that those instruments are talking to each other. It's a conversation, it's a melody. And while everyone has a chance to do their riff, so to speak, they all have to really come back to the harmony of the music. So it seems like music is really kind of a way of expressing words, because a lot of us speak with certain tonalities, certain rhythms as well. So I think it just has a real intimate connection, maybe as Cliff was pointing out, between the cosmic and the expression in the objective world of ours. So that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And Maurice, just one question.
Yeah.
If it ain't got that swing, what does it mean?
Yeah, that's it.
It don't mean a thing.
It don't mean a thing. Yeah.
Robert?
Yeah, I have a question. I think it fits into this idea of the heart and the music and harmony. In the quote from the article on the verbum, it talked about the potency of speech being determined by motivation, intensity of inmost feeling, and the degree of individual and universal consciousness. It was interesting that there was a distinction between motivation and intensity of inmost feeling, which sometimes you might conflate, actually. But I wondered about how feeling enters into this equation of the verbum. You know, Maurice just talked about our response, our feeling response to sound or music. You know, that evokes a great deal of feeling from us. So that seems to be an intimate connection between harmony and hearing harmony and feeling. So how does this play out in terms of the verbum and the potency of one's own speech?
Oh, that's a really well done question.
I was going to say something on that, actually, if I could.
Is that you, Marion? Is that you,
Yes.
Marion? Yeah,
Yes.
go for it. You're another verbum person, but that's okay.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but then this couple of the comments, just to the gentleman that just spoke and is kind of postulating this question to the group. I was thinking about Dr. Martin Luther King all this time, and of how his voice, I mean, came from the heart, but it was also it spoke to a really magnificent other purpose that moved people from the heart and brought people together. So his tonality was so full of feeling, but it was for a bigger purpose to change, to make a change for the better. And also wanted to point out, because we mentioned jazz, but at the time they called them the Negro spirituals. That was the verb or the term used. But if you go back and listen to those songs,
What was the term, Marion?
well, in the '60s, the term Negro spirituals like Harry Belafonte and a lot of the
Oh
great
yeah, Harry Bell. Yeah.
yeah, they sang the songs of people that worked in the fields. Okay, slave. What they call them, slaves. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to bring up something unpleasant, but I mean, Dr. King, through the power and the beautiful tonality and rhythmic cadence of his voice, not only it was in his voice, but
Marion, your voice is not your connection's not coming through.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
I'm just saying that Dr. King's voice had its own beauty and harmony that came through, that delivered his message that was for peace and to help the civil rights movement. So I'm just trying to make that connection about the tonality, the harmony, the musicality of of speech. That was, to me, he was an outstanding motivation, or I'm sorry, example of of something, of using speech that just made it was a whole movement in the '60s.
Yes, and wasn't it interesting? I was thinking of cadence too,
Yeah,
and the rhythm and so forth. And wasn't it interesting that a vision was coming through his words?
right.
Normally, we think of vision as something with light and sight, right? But he says, I have a dream. But then he talked about what the dream was. It's very universal, so that everyone could relate to everyone. The children could relate to each other, and they could grow up as equal brothers and sisters. So there was this incredible universal, the first object of the Theosophical movement was just coming through him, every pore in his body, and it was just being released into the world. I think someday that he's going to be considered one of the founding fathers of this country.
It's a wonderful idea. And you're right. That's a great idea, and I think it should be. I didn't know if I got broken up on the phone, but I mentioned that the songs uh, that were actually more popular in the '60s. They were played everywhere, at least when I was growing up.
Oh yeah,
That Harry Belafonte sang and
yes,
Miriam Makeba. If you go back and listen to those songs, I mean, you're so moved in a spiritual way towards the movement and the feeling of compassion for the purpose of King's movement.
yes,
Can I say
yeah.
something?
Monica's kind of wants to come in on that.
Mary, I'm in total agreement with you, but I would also like to add that part of the beauty of gospel music and I guess that time in the 60s and in the 50s too was that it lifted people out of uh, this sort of communication with there's nothing else but this sorrow that I come from, and it gave people an opportunity, and especially, obviously, people who were had been enslaved, that there was something in them. Now, in Christianity, there's less talk of what's inside you than there is about Jesus Christ. But when you hear this music, you can't help but run into or sort of accidentally get that this saving power is within you, or you, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear it or relate to it or even respond to it. And so that was the beauty of gospel music. It didn't need anybody to prove it. It just was, if you listen, if you join in, you will find that this power is within you too. And so you can take your faith out of slavery, hardship, whatever, and put it in this. And not only is it there, but it will grow.
Wow.
And so that was the foundation of a pop music. You know, Aretha Franklin, all of those people. But the beauty of that gospel gave us a way out.
Yeah, there's something about sound in the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
And during that whole cycle, and even the 80s, I'll dare say.
There was also a famous, like going along with what Monica's saying, the one of the songs that Harry Belafonte sang, "My Lord, what a morning when the sun begins to shine."
Oh, yes.
I always felt that tremendous uplifting that you're talking about, and even the way he sang it, I would recommend anybody to listen to that. It was so uplifting and beautiful.
You know, that there's something in the hymn de Bach which is very much like that, but it has to do with
Oh, can I say real fast? Elvis was a theosophist, and he used to read HPB on stage a few times. And there were people that even said that he would read the books with her at night. So he was initiated into music by going to the gospel church, you know, the black church in his neighborhood, and finding that was the thing that really turned him into wanting to make music. So I think that's interesting.
there's that incredible gospel song that he sings. You can find it on YouTube. He's very much connected with the voice of silence. At least that's something that Raghavan had mentioned. Nathan.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I just have to make mention, everyone, of the 8 wonderful albums that Joe and Eddie made, including such greats as "There is a meeting, there is a meeting, there is a meeting here tonight, there is a meeting here tonight, there is a meeting here tonight." Oh, I almost did it. Well, there's a meeting. Okay, it goes on. It's wonderful. And that's what we're doing here tonight, is we're all getting together, singing the song of the soul. And I want to just bring together a few points about the kaleidoscopic and jazz-like, nature of the human heart, and the feeling nature of the human heart that is really beyond our thinking about it. This is something that I think we should all take a good look on the theosophytrust.org website. There's an article, mysterious article found in a temple in India, and it was penned by Punarvasu, right? And the article is called "The Eternal Religion," where he speaks to really the religion of the future, which is the religion of all the time. It's the religion that was there before there was God, actually. And it's the religion of relying upon our feeling nature and trusting our feeling nature, because the voice of the teacher in this article, speaks of himself as the dream God. So if Martin Luther King had a dream, and we're all, members of the tribe of a single race of dreamers, this is the infallible talisman that we have. We don't need to look to any kind of external authority. We have the technology. It's our bodies.
Yeah.
We know whether something pings in our nervous system as true or not true, and that's going to guide us towards deeper and deeper truth. So I'm just thinking about the nature of chaos, right? It's this is what there was before there was order, before there was the logos. It's this like it's beyond. We can't even. I mean, I don't know about all this stuff. I'm glad to have studied for many years, but it's still beyond my ability to understand. But I guess that's all I will share. Then yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can share.
Oh, Monica wants to come in on that, and then,
Yeah.
oh, no. And yeah, and then we'll go to Judy. Go ahead, Monica.
Just wanted to share that it gives gospel music and sound gives the person a bridge to the teachings. It's not just the truth that God is within, but it gives us the opportunity to study and understand that this person may sing about it, this person may sit and study about it, but it is that same power that sets us free. And so the idea of putting one down because you didn't read The Secret Doctrine, or you can't sing gospel, or you don't know, all of that goes out the window when you start to connect these things. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Judy?
Yes, I wanted to say that Shakespeare mentions sound and music many times in his plays. For example, in The Merchant of Venice, there is this idea of the harmony of the spheres, and which I think a character named Jessica is being spoken to, and I think the speaker says, "Look how the heavens are thick and played with pantings of bright gold, but whilst this muddy vesture of decay, such harmony there is for immortal souls, but whilst this muddy vesture of decay doth grossly hold it in, we cannot hear it. So if the human race would stop making so much noise down here all the time, we could hear the harmony of the spheres. I'm sure this would change a lot of people's ideas." And, and so on. In so many plays, I think in 12th Night, the Duke says, if music be the soul of love, play on. And don't trust any man who doesn't like music, which I think is very true. So I think
that's something that Shakespeare says. He says that in one of his characters does say that a person who cannot. Well, what the way you said is probably as good as I could think of. Doesn't like music, is actually not to be trusted.
yes,
Isn't that something? Ken's going to come up.
Oh, well, Ken's coming up. I just want to say about being able to appreciate music. We have to be able to appreciate silence, and this speaks so that depth of the silence is the unmanifest ground of our being. Right? Yeah. That's how we can. Yeah.
Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, thanks. And so I just wanted to thank Cliff for this amazing speech, and especially those 17 ways to get involved with the Verbum. And I opened up the Gupta Vidya here in the San Diego Lodge, and there's one sentence, if I could read it aloud, when Raghavan suggests, quote, calmly sitting down in the privacy of one's own solitude to read aloud the voice of the silence or excerpts from The Secret Doctrine, one can make a radical change in one's magnetic field. And so on this topic of, self-magnetization and changing our energy, I thought that was a fascinating way that, just like the music we've been talking about these last few minutes, that sitting by myself and reading the voice of the silence aloud, I've actually never done that. And associated with that, I have another question. Anyone in the audience, does anyone know if there's any recordings of someone singing the Bhagavad Gita? Because I knew of someone that was associated with the lodge in the past, fellow Manoj, his wife had studied in India and was learning or had learned how to sing the Gita, and I attended one session which he sang a part of it. But does anyone know of any recordings? That's sort of a question for the chat.
But Vikash from India has recorded chanting of the Bhagavad Gita, and the Thursday night class did a whole series on the Gita last year, and it always began with a chant of the Gita, that it was actually sung. So I mean, it is the song of God after all. You know, the song celestial. So you know, why shouldn't it be chanted or sung?
And what was that name again, Judy?
His name is Vikash, and he's in the Bangalore Lodge, and he's in the Thursday night Universal Theosophy study class, and we're now studying the Celestial Wisdom with him, and some of that has also been chanted as well in the Sanskrit, of course.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yes, right.
Okay, we've got pretty much our time is pretty much up. Cliff, see what you started again. That was magnificent. I'm starting to like your theory of just say a few words and then let everybody take off. So I'm starting to become a believer. So, and we went all the way from the highest metaphysics to just the deep feeling and the deep listening and the deep and I love the deep agnosticism that was going on at the same time, you know, and the wondering and the learning in real time with everyone. So, Cliff, let's see here.
Jonathan, there's a chat note I put on the screen.
Cliff, are you still here even? Let's see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. So somebody wants something about a chat that what we're doing?
Oh, I just.
Okay. HPB says, okay, David Grossman, there he is. The universe is the combination of 1,000 elements. This is from HPB. The universe is the combination of 1,000 elements, and yet the expression of a single spirit, a chaos to the sense, a cosmos to the reason. Beautiful. Excellent.
There's one thing that.
Okay, Monica.
Well, I love the list of things. I tried to keep up and put them all down, but one thing you put down that I thought was wonderful: live as if we are already in the golden age.
That is so amazing.
So strong in you.
Yeah. That's a whole meeting about that. Matter of fact, that's what our ULT Day thing will be concentrated on, is precisely that. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. Cliff, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Cliff, everyone.
Good to see everybody or hear everybody. Appreciate it.